Why should they be familiar?
Maybe, in meditation, you have kind of like close your eyes and see kind of like some interesting patterns in your visual field.
If you press your palms against your eyes, or your eyes are closed, you may see something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Only if you don't have aphantasia.
Okay,
I would
so
say if you do have aphantasia, then you may not experience any visual color. But for my part, I have total aphantasia and can still get into the creation of lines from noise. There's still something predictive that deep in meditation, noise can generate some interesting geometry.
Okay, so yeah, you can essentially DJ quite a bit here, and I mean it's really fun, kind of like playing with music and maybe smoking a little bit of weed and like just kind of like getting lost into these patterns. But of course, it's like okay, like are we doing like serious science here? Well, okay, so this is actually kind of like the result of a lot of years of inquiry into like how the mind works and how maybe like psychedelic substances actually work. First of all, a little bit kind of like the experimental paradigm we're kind of like playing with nowadays is like, we make like these videos, we might take kind of like a 20-second video of this, let's say, particular configuration. And then we ask like hundreds of psychonauts to rate, that video by how similar it is to different states of consciousness they may know, such as like, one is like fire casino, for example, which is this like very advanced meditation state where what you do is like you look at a candle flame and until you get like an after image, and then you close your eyes and you focus on the after image. And if you keep like doing that over and over and over again for like 8 hours a day for several days, a lot of kind of like visual imagery starts to build up, right? But nobody had kind of like, hey, like truly trying to visualize or like model or represent, hey, like how does that actually look like? So we asked a bunch of people who have gone to like fire casino to essentially like rate these animations, and also like people who have tried LSD, DMT, 5-MeO DMT. I'll give you like for example, these one approximately would be rated as like fairly DMT-like, and there's like actually like a couple reasons why in terms of kind of like things that predict this rating. One is, very fine checkerboard patterns, like very high frequency kind of like waves. And the other thing is kind of like multi-layers, like multiple layers of oscillators. Whereas, for example, okay, something I'm gonna show you in a second. Let's see. Okay, something like this, in black and white. Okay. Something like this, yes. is rated as 5-MeO DMT, much more 5-MeO DMT than quote-unquote regular DMT. And the several features that kind of like predict this rating so far has been one layer of oscillators, as opposed to kind of these like multifaceted many layers of oscillators. Another one is black and white. It's kind of like, it's a very featureless kind of a type of hallucinatory world. And then another thing is, these pinwheels. And you see this, it's actually about to disappear. It might like cancel out with itself, but you get kind of these like pinwheels that slowly but methodically kind of like find each other out and they cancel each other out, almost kind of like particles and antiparticles. And that is very much like reported as kind of like a feature of that state of consciousness. Okay, so I showed you like you can do really cool visualizations with this tool, but how is it made? Right? Like, where did we get this idea? So introduction to kind of coupled oscillators. Okay, so how many of you here have seen this tool?
Was it Lawrence Wu's for visualization?
Yes, Lawrence, program this one. Yes. So this is a way to kind of like replicate psychedelic effects, but kind of like more in time as opposed to kind of like in space. And it's kind of like, as you move a ball around, let's say on 2CB or a psychedelic, you might see kind of this like lingering images. And something that you can do is, ask participants to kind of like tune the frequency to kind of like match the tracers that they're actually experiencing. And you end up seeing like some interesting patterns, such as like, hey, different substances have kind of different spatial frequencies, temporal frequencies. So DMT, for example, is like very high frequency, and also it's pulsing and it changes in color. So like, DMT is kind of this very complex, very, very high frequency phenomenon. Whereas, yeah, something like 2CP is a lot simpler. Something like this, kind of like not a lot going on, but like there's definitely some lingering effects. So you could kind of like imagine there's like some kind of a, like resonance that is like lingering. There's some kind of like vibration that is happening in the brain that is maybe kind of like emphasizing an image several times per second, and maybe you can think like on DMT that is happening like way faster. Okay, so we can kind of like unify this and the replication tool in that you get like both temporal and spatial frequencies kind of like coming together. I mean, essentially, DMT having kind of this very detailed, colorful, multi-layered pattern also comes with like really fast tracers, right? So like the speed of the tracer and the kind of like the detail of the pattern are kind of like two sides of the same coin in a sense. So you have like a, this situation where kind of like the temporal frequency and the spatial frequency come together.
Spatial
and okay, so what I'm going to show you now is this, which is the basic kind of like toy model example. So I'll explain this, and then I'm going to ask you to stand up in a second. But first, okay, so here, kind of like the oscillators are essentially moving kind of like a clock. Like every oscillator is like moving across the color wheel. And it's connected to its neighbors, neighbors once removed, neighbors twice removed. And what I'm modulating with these levers is the coefficients of those couplings for different distances. So for example, here, I'm gonna make the coupling to the immediate neighbors negative, right? So now, all of the oscillators want to be opposite to their immediate neighbors, right? So you get kind of this checkerboard pattern effect. And what we find is like, this type of effect phenomenology is very DMT-like. But it's kind of like more across the board. It's not only the visual field, also the tactile field, auditory field. Everything on DMT sort of kind of like wants to kind of like activate its opposite in its immediate neighborhood. And you get kind of these like fractal checkerboard patterns. Whereas 5-MeO DMT, sometimes they call it also the God molecule. It's more like this, where like everything kind of coheres, and you end up having kind of like just one big wave or one big pinwheel. And the way this gets generated is that everybody wants to be the same phase, the same color as their neighbors. Neighbors once removed, twice removed. So it's kind of like a one global coherent attractor. Okay, so if people, could stand up. And everybody find a partner. Everybody find a partner.
For the real Sun Kitty.